happen to have neglected either, maybe it's time to bring in the experts, and NTT Data are very much in that bracket. They're a company who've been in existence for over half a century. They pioneered the Zengen system, which allowed Japanese banks to able to transfer money online, the first company in Japan to introduce technologies like smart cards and virtual shopping malls. And then their strategy evolved from focusing on IT support for Japanese companies to developing long-term strategy targeted at the world's largest markets, North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and now they want to be trusted global innovators, accelerating digital transformation even further and enhancing global synergies. It's been some journey for NTT Data, but how does this all apply when it comes to sport, and where exactly is it relevant? Not only are they one of the best in class, but they can also tell us about the benefits of digital process for sponsorship, relationship management, and game operations, especially now as we emerge from the coronavirus pandemic. We're also going to be hearing from clients who've undertaken this journey, sharing the challenges that they faced and the insights from their experience as well. So hopefully there'll be plenty of take-homes for all of you here. This session is brought to you in partnership with NTT Data. So please welcome our moderator, CTO NTT Data, Tom Winstanley, and your speakers, a Managing Director at VfL Gummersbach, Christopher Schindler, Senior Director Management Advisory Services at NTT Data, Andreas Berning, Lead Consultant, part of IP and Startup Ecosystem for EMEA, that's Europe, Middle East and Africa at NTT Data, Atta Andreo, and joining us by video link, Managing Director at FTS Concept GmbH, Torsten Storm. Before we get the conversation underway, by way of introduction, please turn your attentions to your screens for a brief video of introduction. Thank you very much indeed.
Guter Sound.
Cool, ne?
It's loud, ne?
Great sound.
Fantastic, and welcome to this event. I'm absolutely delighted to be kicking off this panel discussion today. As you've seen on the screens, NTT Data and NTT Group have been heavily active in the area of sports innovation and digitization with all kinds of interesting sports, not just in football, but across the board. And I was actually lucky enough myself earlier this year to be involved as part of our Summer of Sport with the Open in the UK and bringing real-time analytics to that event and enhancing the fan experience. We're going to kick off with a bit of a discussion of that area of fan experience. But after that, what we really want to talk about is the interplay between the digitization of the business of sport and the commercial innovation that is going on, as well as the fan experience, the enhancement of the sport up front. Because we see that as a real virtuous circle, if you like, to continually evolve and improve the game. Now, we've gone out on a bit of a limb today, as we've got some guests from our client base in the German handball scene. So there is going to be a little bit of on-the-fly translation as well. So if there are any Bundesliga people in the audience, please don't cross-check my translations too closely. I think we'll be getting pretty closely there. Keep the posts coming, obviously, in the live chat, but let's just dig straight into it. And it's going to be over to Atha and Andrea first to set the scene, to tell us a little bit about what we've been doing in the last 18 months and how that is helping to define the future of sport.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I just take over. So we saw an impressive video, I think, how innovation and digitalization can make game changer for sports. And I would like, as a warm-up, just pick one of these examples, which is the Tour de France. We are a technology partner for a decade. So we really tied to the people from AOS, the operator of the Tour de France. And we started with content management, providing content. But we evolve over time, so every year we improve the system. So we put sensors on the cycles, we put sensors on the cyclists themselves. We get the fan experience more and more impressive. You have real-time tracing capability. So everything around evolving the fan experience and give a better understanding with data and projects. So, but this is, I think this is quite standard, but thanks to COVID, Macron canceled the Tour de France, which was a really hassle for AOS. And they asked us, as a technology partner, how can we cope this? And we sit together with them and developed the first phygital cycle event in the world ever. So it means physically all the cyclists stay at home, be on their bike, be in a training environment, but digitally connected to all the other cyclists in the world. So they made a virtual, real-time online race. I'm not sure if anyone of you has seen that, but it was very impressive. And we've done this in a 6-week time zone. And this is how digitalization can really reinvent sports at this case. Okay, the Tour de France after has happened as well, but the digital event was really impressive. And this is everything you do in this regard can be done if you have only a long-term relationship to these kind of a sports event. And this is our aspiration as NTT Data, being the long-term partner and being flexible enough to help the association and the teams to drive really new experience in sports or even reinvent the sports.
So the key there really is understanding the sport, but understanding what the tech can do, for sure. Atha, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, obviously there's plenty of examples that we're doing with sports organizations. One is, for example, Fenerbahce Istanbul, to mention, from football club. Fenerbahce, as most of you know, is not just a football club, it's more an organization with more sectors, basketball and so on. And to fit the regulation by the stock market and UEFA, they asked us to provide them a system that fulfill all the regulations. And this is something that usually doing big companies, and obviously we're doing a lot of stuff for big companies. But to translate a club in a company that is able to use all this information in the right way is the example that we did with Gummersbach today, as another example of how to make business as a club. And all the people talking about how we can make our fans our customer, but they never think about really deep on what processes we need in the background to be able to monetize all those fans, all those streams, all those touch points. And Fenerbahce and Gummersbach are just two examples of those.
Thanks, that's really great. So again, on the one hand, it's all about the cool experiences that can be created for fans and augmented reality and the AI stuff and all that great stuff. But it's also about how you can go about digitizing that back office, that the activities to be really, really effective as an organization, as a commercial organization, because that virtuous circle really kicks in. And I think that's a good time to call in Torsten from Germany on the screen next to us. Maybe you could give us your perspective on that interlink between digitization, innovation in handball.
Yes, hello from Germany. Yes, handball is a popular and traditional sport like football, but mainly in Europe, with the core markets in Germany and France, as well as also in Scandinavia. But the big difference is that the money is not coming out of TV contracts. It's all financed by sponsorships with partners and spectator revenue. So we have to be very, very careful and approach our partners more quickly and innovative. For example, with digital added value such as solutions like NTT Sports. So the sponsor in handball world wants the network and not only the TV coverage and the reaches. So it's more the mid-class and not the global brand that is advertising here. And that's why this project is interesting also for a sport like handball, ice hockey, or basketball. So
Brilliant. Thanks. Yeah. No, carry on.
Yes, one time, maybe a small story, I met Günter Netzer, an old football staff from the place where you are now. So I asked him what did we wrong, and he said, in the end, nothing. We did everything right, but football is just a completely different world. And now I was working 20 years for 3 major Bundesliga clubs, but this digital extension is a really important building block for both sports, for handball and football, what I can see right now.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So let's bring it back into this amazing stadium here. I'm going to ask you, Christoph, maybe if you could paint a picture of that connection between the sporting success and the commercial success, and how that's been brought together in Gummersbach.
Ja, das ist im Handball ähnlich wie im Fußball. Geld schießt Tore und die Frage ist immer, was war zuerst da? Das Huhn oder das Ei? Sprich, braucht man sportlichen Erfolg, um für Fans und Partner attraktiv zu sein? Oder braucht man erst die Fans und Partner, um wirtschaftlich erfolgreich zu sein, um das Geld dann in den Sport investieren zu können?
Yeah. So it's a chicken and egg situation. You know, do you invest first in the game and the players and that side of things, or do you invest in the commercial organisation in order to be able then to build the success in the fan and sporting side? And it's definitely that virtuous circle. I think makes a lot of sense to me. So obviously we've been working with you guys now for a couple of years. Could you talk us through why this innovation and digitization in the back office, in the business of your organization was so important?
Ja, als erstes muss man vielleicht erklären, der VfL Gummersbach ist einer der erfolgreichsten Vereine im Handball weltweit. Das Problem ist, dass der Erfolg halt in der Vergangenheit lag und Traditionsvereine, und das ist im Fußball genau das Gleiche, haben immer das Problem, dass sie nur von ihrer Tradition leben wollen, aber diese Tradition, die schießt in erster Linie keine Tore und die bezahlt auch keine Rechnung.
So, to set the scene, Gummersbach 2 years ago, is an organisation with an immense history of success in the handball season, but 2 years ago was in a pretty difficult situation, both financially and had actually just dropped into the second league in the stakes in Germany.
Bei uns war es so, und es stand eigentlich exemplarisch dafür, an meinem ersten Tag als Geschäftsführer sind 2 Mitarbeiterinnen auf den Dachboden gegangen und haben gefühlt einen halben Tag dafür gebraucht, den Sponsoringvertrag von einem Hauptsponsor zu suchen, und das hat einfach gezeigt, dass wir nicht effektiv gearbeitet haben, sprich nicht gearbeitet haben wie ein Wirtschaftsunternehmen.
So just to bring that really to life, on the first day that Christoph joined the organisation, he asked for all of the information about the key sponsors and the business of the business, if you like, and he had to send two employees up to the attic, I kid you not, to find the basic contracts, the basic information about the key sponsor, and it turns out it wasn't even the original contract that was in place.
Ja, und deswegen ist es halt wichtig, sich als Wirtschaftsunternehmen aufzustellen, und da gehören halt digitale Lösungen dazu, wie die wir gefunden haben, um einfach effektiver arbeiten zu können und auch Mehrwerte für Fans und Sponsoren am Ende darstellen zu können.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, I think it's clear that that's not the way to run a business. That's not the way to run a sporting business. The journey that many organisations have been on in that space across different sporting industries, I think, is pretty stark. And I can say certainly from our side, as we're interacting across all the different types of sport, we've been surprised partially, but also heartened by the increasing recognition that the commercial side, and that's not just about obviously managing the sponsorship deals and making sure the money is coming in, but being an effective organisation is a real strong path to the future. So certainly an organisation in a difficult situation. Let's talk about what we then did together to resolve that. So maybe, Andreas, can you talk a little bit about what we did?
Yeah, so the project we did with VfL Gummersbach was quite amazing. So the mission was to turn a traditional sports club into a professional company. And we implemented a CRM system based on Salesforce Sales Cloud, so a customer relationship management for B2B sponsorship and B2B sales processes. It was quite an amazing project because given the time we had, we took into 8 weeks, so 2 months, turn it from a completely analog company where we found a lot of information we need to integrate in the ethics, in some files, on some post-its, integrate them in the new system, and make the system ready to be tailor-made for a sports club. So we modeled and templated all the advertisement spaces, so assets around 400 different asset types. So is it the logo on the jersey, is it the logo on the bus, or some of the static things are quite easy, but if you think about all the advertisement parameters like here, you need to model them by a timely base, so that advertisement in any part of the game have different prices. And so we put everything together that all the sales guys from Gummersbach can go out to the clients and make business by exactly showing them what is available, what are the costs, bundle packages together, have a fully transparency across the whole sales force of Gummersbach. So it's not only one sales guy, so a lot of sales guys. And so we have a fully, completely transparency system where we dashboards for Christopher, for instance, so he gets transparency to what is my sales status, what is the status for the next games, and so on in this time. And it was really amazing to see how this can be done in exactly 2 months' time. And very happy that this program has happened, and I think you will tell something about the impact of already seen.
Absolutely. So speed's not just important on the field, it's also important behind the scenes. Christoph, maybe you can give us a little bit more of a view of what were the key steps then? What were your learnings out of that experience that maybe is a takeaway for some of the people here today?
Ja, ich glaube, das Wichtigste ist, wie das Ganze anfängt. Und ich habe schon mal gesagt, eigentlich 3 wichtige Themen. Das erste muss natürlich von innen herauskommen. Das heißt, man muss sich bewusst werden, eine Vision haben und einen Plan haben, wie ein Verein als Wirtschaftsunternehmen aufgestellt werden soll. Und den klaren Plan, den hatten wir.
Yeah. So really important 3 key areas that you need to have in mind. The first one may sound obvious, but it's amazing how often that's not in place, is it's a vision of what the commercial organisation needs to be and a plan to build that out.
Das Zweite, und das ist wahrscheinlich das Wichtigste, viele Traditionsvereine denken darüber nach, aber im Sport ist es immer so, es geht um kurzfristigen Erfolg. Das heißt, man investiert jeden Euro und gerade wie Thorsten vorhin schon gesagt hat, der Handball hat nicht so viel Geld wie der Fußball, wird jeder letzte Euro in den Sport gesteckt und nicht langfristig gedacht. Und wir haben gesagt, wir wollen in langfristige digitale Lösungen investieren, um dann langfristig auch wirtschaftlich und sprich dann am Ende auch sportlich erfolgreicher zu sein.
So the second point, and it's probably the most important, you need to actually make a conscious choice to invest in this. Handball, as in other sports, as in football, typically investing obviously a massive amount of energy into the sport, not necessarily into the business of the sport. And you have to make the decision to make that investment that is for the longer term, but that is going to drive that success. I'm going to actually fast forward a couple of minutes, if I may, to the results of that. So, what has happened now as a result? Maybe that third point plus, where's this gone?
Ja, für mich als Geschäftsführer ist natürlich immer wichtig zu sehen, wo steht das Unternehmen, nicht nur sportlich, das sieht man meistens an der Tabelle, sondern es geht auch darum zu sehen, wo stehen wir im wirtschaftlichen Bereich, gerade im Sales-Bereich, und es erlaubt mir zum Beispiel, dass ich heute in Madrid sein kann und trotzdem nachher auf dem Handy schauen kann, was haben unsere Sales-Leute gemacht, wer kommt morgen als potenzieller neuer Sponsor zum Spiel, das heißt einfach viel mehr Übersicht.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, as the managing director of the organisation, you know, obviously the sponsorship, getting a handle on that sponsorship and understanding exactly who and when and how that process is going to be managed is central. And suddenly, Christoph has that all in his hands, on his phone, and the control that's given has been hugely impactful.
Ja, was interessant ist, wenn man ein modernes Wirtschaftsunternehmen sein will, braucht man auch moderne Mitarbeiter. Wir haben zum Beispiel jemanden aus dem Fußball dazu bekommen, der extrem erstaunt war, wie viel professioneller im administrativen Bereich teilweise gearbeitet wird und der in seinem ersten Monat für uns mehr Geld verdient hat als in den letzten 3 Monaten im Fußball. Und es liegt vielleicht daran, dass die Digitalisierung geholfen hat, vielleicht aber auch daran, dass das Produkt ein bisschen sexier ist.
Okay, so an interesting side effect, something that actually wasn't expected, but you know, a modern sport needs modern employees. Christoph has recently been able to attract guys out of the German football scene. Recent employee joined the organisation, was absolutely stunned at the difference between the level of professionality of the back office compared to where he was coming from, and we won't name names in terms of the team. But the result was in the first month of his time at VfL Gummersbach, he was able to earn and bring in more sponsorship, 3 times more sponsorship than he had done in the previous 3 months in the football team. That's probably in part because of the efficiency of the process and the way that that's been set up, but perhaps it's just because it's a sexier sport. I'll leave that hanging in the air. Andreas, maybe you could talk us through a little bit then the kind of the practical next steps and where that's going, and Atha, also feel free to chip in on that.
Yeah. So some words from my point to this project. It was about. I think we spent a lot of time in defining the problem space rather than in the solutioning, and we figured out that the problem. You as a human being are more like, I have a problem, I look for a solution. But we spend a lot of time in investigating in the problems and the relation between problems, so that the ideation phase and the solution phase was then really faster, and we have really a holistic system where we can really deploy every of these processes what you have. And doing this kind of a digital transformation, although it's already overdue and bust, is based on 3 pillars. The one is technology. So, as I mentioned before, this is a no-brainer for us. But these are also the processes. So the processes of sales need to be adapted to a digital approach. And the third one, which is really important for success, are the people. So we also need to take the people which are used to work in a different way to get into the new era of digitalization and professionalization of the sports.
People, process, technology. Atha, maybe
Yeah, just a few ads. Christopher, you talk about this already. When we start, or when Christopher started, Gummersbach had a lot of amount of debt. Today you are almost even, and this situation is not just of our process, but a big piece of this. Combining this with the information what Andrea said, that we're going a long-term relationship and we understand first the problem, means for us now, because Gummersbach obviously is better than 2 years ago, and Christopher has time to think tonight a glass of wine with me, we can think about the next steps. And the next steps is clear. We want to help Gummersbach to go to the Asian market. Some of you will be surprised that a handball club going to the Asian market, but this step is really easy. It's really easy. We are an Asian company. We know what the market needs, but furthermore, VfL Gummersbach has his own old Asian player, the best Asian player of all time in handball, used to play for Gummersbach. He is a brand representative in South Korea. So we already have a testimonial there. And what is also important, based on the Salesforce solution that we have, Gummersbach is ready to sell merchandising ticket to Asian market like this, easy. All the process behind are already there, without even put a new employee on the place. And this is just one part. The second part is to create a fan journey that really relates to handball. How we doing this? We always try different approaches, and as we said, we want to understand the customer as well. You have to know that Gummersbach is a city close to Cologne. So the University of Science is not in Cologne, it's in Gummersbach. So if you go to Gummersbach to a game, across the street is a university. So why is this important? All these people that are sitting there, one time, like in a couple of years, they will have a good job, they will have knowledge about technology, and there should be VfL Gummersbach customer, fan. So we're creating a plan to make a hackathon with the University of Cologne in the arena of VfL Gummersbach, exactly with those people creating the fan journey that later going to be the fans. This is how the academic would say, common-based peer production in perfect. And we're bringing just our knowledge of how you do a hackathon, the knowledge how we're doing fan experience, as we did for the Open, IndyCar, and so on. But we want to add something on, something that is really reliable to the specific needs of a handball fan. And that's the reason we bring straight the future customer and fan on the process.
Great. I've just been given the signal to start winding up from our side, so I think that's actually a really good segue into the final straight. For us, when we talk about innovation and digitization, they're like the yin and yang. They both fit together perfectly. We've heard there about how integrating your fans even into the experience and of improving and enhancing and building out your organisation, your business, can be hugely impactful, and we're excited about where that's going. As a team, we're here all day. For those of you who are here in the stadium, please search us out. We'll be more than happy to talk about any of the innovations that we've just talked about. And Christoph, I know, is also keen to explain to you how handball is the more sexy sport of the two, and how that can be brought to life. I'll leave you with just one pointer in terms of our direction. Fan experience, immersive experiences, applications of AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, engaging fans is hugely important and is transforming the way that the this industry is being experienced, and we're all benefiting from that, and Atha has talked about all of that side of things. But we think what's really exciting is when you can bring that together with the business of the sport and the commercial digitalisation that can be put in place can really, really, really impact your ability to invest then in the sport itself. So thank you very much, guys, for taking the time. It's been a real pleasure to be here in the audience, and I think it is back over to our able moderator to take us on the next part of the journey.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, NTT Data and VfL Gummersbach. And Tom, thank you so much for chairing the discussion as well. Off you go, guys. Thank you very much.